All right.
Yes.
While preparation by political parties ahead of next year's general election are in top gear, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is expressing concern over the volume of unclaimed permanent voter cards as a PVCs in its custody, 6 months to the 2019 elections.
The Commission says about 7.5 million PVCs are yet to be claimed. Lagos State leads the pack of states with the highest number of unclaimed PVCs, with over 1 million, followed by Oyo with more than 600,000, before states like Edo, Osun, Ogun, Imo, Ondo, Kogi, Kwara and Rivers. Well, INEC says voters' migration from one state to another could be largely responsible for the number of voter cards still in its possession.
All right, at least that helps to make sense of why PVCs are still
so many.
So many, unclaimed. 7.9 million PVCs. This figure was actually put out early in the year, and it still really has not changed.
And it was even put out last week again. By
still
INEC.
Really hasn't changed. That means people are really not listening. All right, our guest is Professor Anthony Killer, a professor of strategy, of course, and development, and he's also director, Center for International Advanced
Professional studies.
Advanced.
You're wearing so many caps.
Yes. It's good to have you on the show.
Good having me. Thank you.
Okay, so how alarming really is it for you? 7.9 million PVC still on
7.5 million, yeah.
Okay, well, 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. I mean, what's the difference really?
Well, I think it's high. I think
quite high.
It's quite high. I think ideally we should be looking at why people are not collecting it. There should be a mindset for, and I use loose words, the providers of PVC to find out why people are not collecting the PVC. Is it logistics? Is it because people are traveling? Is it apathy? Is it because they're not interested? They're not interested probably because they don't have faith in the electoral process. Or is it physically impossible for them? Just on Friday night, I was with a chief internal auditor, of a known bank. I told him I was going to cite his example without mentioning his name. And he left his office to go and collect his PVC. He got there very early in the morning, on the way to drop his child at the summer school. And they told him it was number 128 already. And he's thinking the whole day to the what, and he moves away. I think INEC needs to sit down to say, what are the ways? Maybe it's too late now, but moving forward, to sit down and say, what are the ways to make these things easier for people? It is my duty as the provider of PVC and regulator of elections to make sure that citizens can exercise this right, perform this duty in the least expensive way, in the least painful way. That is the sense of service which I think, not just INEC, overall we lack as a country. That vision of thinking that if I'm here in this office, I'm here to serve anybody that comes in. That my good performance is making things easy for my users. That's the way to look at it. And until we do that, we're not going to get it right.
And it seems to be that any solution to this problem or any electoral problem in Nigeria at this point seems to be a reflection, should be a reflection on the part of INEC that what can we do to ease, the challenges, be it registration, PVC collection, or even the,
voting itself.
Voting itself, and then even application for change of residential area, which is quite cumbersome.
You see, if we really have this mind, I have a solution in my mind. For example, if I was in charge of INEC, you know what I would do? I would link PVC with BVN. That way, you don't even need to go to local government. I would let people collect their PVC in their banks. You see, by doing that, you will ease away all the crowd from local government, and your bank, who has your BVN, you will choose. If you have 4 banks, you say, I want to collect my PVC from Bank B. And your account manager or your cashier will give you. That way, it will spread. That way, by outsourcing it, you won't have queues in one local government area. Now, this looks commonsensical, right? And it will really ease things. But hang on a second. You see, the truth is that people are not daft. It is because the people in charge of the election want to rig. And we must say this. That is why they don't do this easy thing. Because if they do that, link BVN to PVC, you've caught a huge chunk of rigging. There will be no underage. There will be no alien voters because you need banks to do that.
True.
And even if there were, you're curbing it a lot. And this is now where you have to
That's a
move
very
away.
fundamental point that you just raised
Yes,
there.
indeed,
What you're
yes.
saying is that the electoral umpire,
Yes.
who really should be more or less detached from the outcome
Yes.
in terms of people who go to the ballot to make their choice.
Yes.
That what you're saying is that INEC itself is at some level colluding to favor, one party above the other. Is that what you're saying?
It's a consequence of that. It's a consequence of political system. INEC is called independent, but it's not exactly devoid of political influence. You can't really rig totally without the conspiracy of INEC, because if you have underage voting somewhere, INEC or the State Electoral Commission of that area should be so aghast by it, and they should be in court every day. They should be firing people.
We had that played out in a state, and nothing was
and
said
nothing was said, and
until
nothing
people started complaining
about it.
proofs.
You say exactly. So it shows you that we don't have a regulator who is truly committed to serving people and free and fair elections. But it's compounded by the fact that INEC's proceedings are regulated by, let's call them executive or legislative arm of government, but they are politicians and they are the interested parties. As a result, their decisions, their processes are not fully uninterested. It is too interested because it is about them. You see, it is unfortunate for, because that is where we are today.
Yeah.
Ideally, it is at the level of constituents. It is when you're making the constitution, the grand norm, as they call it in law, where nation makers, not politicians, make law, thinking that A, they might not be part of it, or not knowing what will happen after the laws are made. You see, when you have a situation where the people making law are seeing the direct benefit for themselves, they cannot really be objective and do something noble.
Okay, self-interest will still kick in.
Self-interest kicks in, and it's too much.
So at the end of the day, it boils down to the same problem we face during every election year. Before 2015 was like that, when even at that time, media organizations, I recall, were even used by INEC to charge Nigerians to go out to register to get their PVCs.
Yeah.
So if we have a high figure of 7.5 million naira, that could change.
Naira. You have Naira on your mind.
PVCs unclaimed. Oh my. Of PVCs unclaimed.
Yes. Something that's not worked. Yes.
Exactly. What should be
what should be
done?
Definitely, we've talked about the logistics. We should make it easier. The other thing is continuous campaign. And here it is unfair to blame just INEC alone. I think the other interested party, all those who are interested in having people vote, should be out there campaigning for PVC, where possible going door to door to go and get people out, to say come and vote. You see, the other stakeholders, movements, NGOs, political parties, should be real out there. There's a body in Nigeria called the
National Orientation Agency.
That body should be reformed or scrapped. It's useless.
We've asked that question many
I
times
want to be
here,
quoted.
what they are doing.
They should either reform it or just scrap it totally. Because this is the kind of time they should be stepping up to not only talking to people to say go and get your vote, but also listening to people to say what are your problems why you're not getting it. So all those interested in Nigeria, as they say, all the people of goodwill, all women and men of goodwill in this country, who are interested in having people to go and vote, should be out there getting people to go and vote.
And speaking to them not only in, lingua franca, in English, in their own language that actually they can understand. But aren't you curious that the majority of unclaimed PVCs actually in the southern part of the country, where you would think there are more educated people who should understand that their future actually lies on...
I'm very glad you say this thing, because you see, when you started by doing that lingua franca thing, there is a conception, actually there's a misconception in Nigeria of good people like you, thinking that it is because people are not informed that they're not voting or they're not collecting their cards. I turn that around. It is actually the informed people that are not voting and not collecting their cards.
There you go.
I am willing to take a bet that if you go to a woman in the market, an artisan, and take their PVC, they have it. It is people like you
who actually don't
have the PVC, who are not voting.
That's very profound.
And the reason why they're doing it is because they do not really see the power of that PVC. You were talking earlier on about vote buying and vote selling. There are a lot of people who use their PVC as identity cards.
True.
Those ones who get it. There are a lot of people who use their PVC as one time in their life, 4 weeks in a year, where they actually get paid for being a citizen.
Okay, so would you say that is because these people are well informed and they understand, they have this mindset that their votes won't count, or they don't even trust the system?
Yes.
That is why
that is where the apathy is coming in.
Okay. Or they won't even go through the inconvenience.
They won't go through the inconvenience because, and that goes to where you're talking about the southern part, the cosmopolitan Nigeria, that is not voting.
Lagos, for example?
Cosmopolitan Nigeria is busy doing his work, he's doing his business. They cannot leave their business, their offices, to go and queue for all day. Because when they do that, they're going to lose their proper income.
Sure.
And the worst, best scenario they can get on Voters' Day to be bought for 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 naira is not worth their while. That is the deep anthropological reason that we really need to look at. But you know, and I say this to middle class Nigeria, cosmopolitan Nigeria, that they're wrong. They have, you see, to me, voting is not a right, it's a duty.
True.
And people who are not voting are living out that duty to others to do for them. They're creating a vacuum, and those who are not capable, those who are not deep enough, would determine their destiny. So if they want this apathy, they're saying, this idea that nothing can change, it really doesn't matter, middle class Nigeria, cosmopolitan Nigeria needs to take charge. They need to register to vote. They need to influence voters.
And interestingly, this period, we've witnessed many people from the southern part of the country more conscious, more interested in the upcoming general election. But when you get these figures again banded in your face, you're alarmed. And then you wonder, really, celebrities, are already on board now, doing their own thing. I don't know if they are sponsored or not, campaigning, going to different states. Telling people to come out and get their
vote.
But then there is this issue of extortion on the part of INEC officials at different, points, registering and, giving out PVCs to Nigerians. That they demand, that they intentionally even make the process complicated and stressful so that you can part with their money for them to help you.
It is you see, this is INEC being Nigerian, not INEC being just INEC. Those of us who have taken time to study the lineament of corruption, one of the things when you study corruption, the strategies for curbing corruption, part of the things that comes out is that corruption thrives where there is chaos and uncertainty. To make a system profitable for those who want to exploit it, they have to create chaos, discomfort, lack of information and uncertainty. So to curb that thing, the extortion bit, the corruption, the bribery, it's the same kind of approach you have to do in everything you do in Nigeria. From the passport office to the immigration office to the driver's license office, you need to decentralize. You need to increase the channels of supply. And I use an economic term here. You must make supply...
Just like you talked about the BVN.
Like the BVN.
The banks,
you must make supply meet demand. You see, INEC needs to sit down. You see, this is what makes me sad about our situation in Nigeria. The way we do things, you look at it and you see that sometimes I ask myself, is thinking is alien to us in Nigeria?
Well, we had, in our discussion earlier, one of our guests cited an example of a young man who was tested in an examination, and he was asked, what do you do with your head? And he said, it's to carry load and not necessarily to think. Now, how effective is INEC's continuous voter registration? Of course, it was supposed to be suspended August 17, sometime last week, and then it was shifted by another 2 weeks. Do you think really that should be the case, or should it be allowed to continue until we're really close to the election?
Personally, I think unless guided by law, and if law should be changed, I think voter registration should be continuous. There should be no deadline. If you want to vote and you can't vote, you should be able to register. In 1979, there's a case I'll never forget, somebody who turned 18 just a few days before that thing. And she had to wait 4 years later to be able to vote.
Ah.
You see, ideally, you see this voting thing, and it's part of the problem. We'll go to another problem with Nigeria. As much as we must get politics right, unfortunately for us, politics is too important in our life. We shouldn't spend so much time on who gets elected. How many are there? 36 governors, and I'm spending my whole year talking about them. Who are they anyway? Most of them are not as important as my plumber to me once they get there. We should relegate it. Voting should just be one of those duties. Now,
one of those duties for developed states, but for a developing country like Nigeria,
ours.
many would say it's everything, because you are going to vote in representatives that are going to determine the direction of your country for the next 4 years.
It's everywhere in the world. Everybody determines the
because
direction.
so many things are still not in place.
Well, so many things are in place, but that's what I mean. Now, okay, this is what we should say. Number one, we should have a plan as a collective, as a people, and as an individual. Individuals should selfishly say to themselves, what do I want in these 4 years? Okay. How many of those things need government? How many of them do not need government? Those who can should take a position on it. You were saying earlier on that people have been interested in the political process. We get it wrong. People are interested in issues. Okay. The working Nigeria, the productive Nigeria, they don't really care if it's A or B. What they care about is what A or B can do for them. And this is the thing.
Are Nigerians really asking those questions?
Majority of
fantastic. That is the next level.
What can A do for me, or what can B do for me? Are Nigerians really interrogating that?
Well, they're not asking enough.
Did you remember what happened in Ekiti State?
Are your confraternity of the media. You need to force them. You need to help Nigerians to ask the right questions and put in the mindset of Nigerians to talk about issues.
Even when you do your part, your part as a media organization, can you help the situation on election day? A text case is what happened in Ekiti during the July 14th.
It's not going on about Ekiti. This thing hasn't happened before. I mean, it's not just Ekiti.
It came to the fore, really.
Yeah, well, Ekiti gave us a crown. You're right. No, what needs to be done is not on that day. Well, it's before. Okay. Your time is going. People should take charge.
All right, our director says we have to just end here. Professor Anthony Killer, Professor of Strategy and Development and Director, Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.